All right. Good morning, Haley. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I am fantastic. So I've got your resume here in front of me. You and I have been chatting off camera in regards to an opening that we have in Sanford, Florida for a manager in training, assistant manager role that will grow into the office manager. You have a very fantastic background. And what stuck out to me was your progression thus far in your resume. You started as an office assistant, customer service rep, moved up to administrative assistant, and now you are looking to take the next step. But with every company, you have longevity, multiple years at each position. So let's start at your most recent position at Teak Isle. What type of company was that?
Teak Isle is actually a manufacturing company. They manufacture boat parts. I worked in the engineering office. So earlier, when you mentioned that I would be amongst the engineers and they do AutoCAD, I actually have a little bit of experience with AutoCAD. So one of the things that I did, especially I would mainly do this in like my off time if it was like a little slow or something like that. I would do like small AutoCAD drawings for the prototype department. Like I would mock up like prototypes basically.
Beautiful. I love that. I like that you have the exposure to the industry and what these gentlemen in the office would also be doing, because obviously there's a lot of layers for you to learn in this new role. So I like you having the exposure already. What type of computer software were you using in your last position?
I was using Microsoft Office, Excel, Outlook. We would also use Slack to communicate. Um, that is it. Yes, just
All right,
Microsoft
beautiful.
Office.
All right, great. And it looks like you've got some pretty good experience with project management and working with the shop managers to, gather, the information for the projects that they were working on. So tell us what a typical day looked like in your role on average.
Okay. Every day was a little bit different. So on average, I would say when I first got in, it was a typical 8 to 5 role, right? So I would get in. I would have a huge stack of papers that were customer orders. So I would enter in those customer orders into the database. So that would be my first priority, just entering all the customer orders, and then I would. Report to my engineering manager, see if there was any specific projects that he wanted me to do, or just anything specific that he wanted me to do. If so, I would, of course, get like right away on those tasks. I would also document the prototypes. So I would go down to the prototype department. That really entails just taking really detailed pictures and notes on the prototypes for the engineers. So then I would hand that documentation over to the engineers, and then they would have it so they can, do their thing. And then I would also assist the customer service department and the sales department with just really anything that they needed help with. Like if they needed me to go down to the warehouse area and get like a part or something like that, I would run that errand for them. If they needed any additional information on a part or anything like that, like if they were on the phone with the customer and they're like, hey, Haley, I really need this information. Can you go get that for me? I would go get that for them. Um, and yeah, that's basically kind of an outline of what my day to day would look like.
So I love this even more now that I'm learning more too, because what it sounds like to me is that you're wearing different hats. You're kind of used to being like maybe in your groove working on something and someone throwing a fire at you that they need help with that seems very urgent to them. How did you keep yourself organized on any given day? Like what was your process and procedure to keep yourself organized?
So Excel was kind of my best friend, honestly, and I do count myself as an organized person. So just any, like I would use Excel for anything, like note taking, like organizing, maybe data, any kind of data. Um, and yeah, so I guess that's kind of how I would keep myself organized, is to just enter any important information. I would also like take meeting minutes as well during like the weekly engineering meetings, and I would organize that into like a shared document that me and my manager had. So yeah, just organizing information into Excel was my go-to. And then I would just save it to a file that was just really easily accessible to me. I would make sure that everything was named correctly so I could just look at my desktop and be like, okay, I need this information. And so I would just be able to look on my desktop and everything
Yeah.
would be named accordingly. So that would be really easy. So yes, that was kind of my
Great.
go-to.
I love it. So obviously that position is very relevant, to this role as far as, administrative assistant. Again, we know that this position will start as the assistant to the office manager and grow into the office manager seat. There's also a lot of customer service involved with this position. You're dealing with clients, taking orders. You spent a little over 2 years at Bed Bath & Beyond in customer service. Tell us about that position.
Yeah, so I was a customer service representative. I would take um, calls from customers, just kind of back to back, Um, it would just be me on the phone with customers, either helping them place an order, um, answering any questions, about any products on the website. If they needed help navigating the website, I would help them out with that. Just basically anything that they needed help with, I would help them with. Um, and if they had an issue with their order, I would, go through that with them. Like if their order arrived broken or anything like that, I would typically just, order them a new one, expedite the shipping, stuff like that.
I love it. Did you process payments or anything like that on your end? Like, were you having to do any type of credit card runs or anything like that?
Yes, yeah. So when I was placing an order for a customer, I would, just be on the website. I would have the employee like interface website, just put everything in the cart that they wanted, just go through the normal checkout process, enter in their shipping address and billing address, and then their credit or debit card information. So yes, and then I would place the order for them if they wanted me to.
Fantastic. Now, Hailee, so to kind of wrap this up a little bit, because again, my client obviously is going to chat with you in more detail. At this point in your career, are you committed to staying at something, long term, minimum of 5 years plus? And if so, what is the most important thing to you about the next company that you work for?
So I am at a point where yes, I do want to you know be at a company for several years. So that's definitely where I see myself. And the next role, I am looking for some growth. Um, and just to work with nice friendly people, because you're at work for several hours a day, several hours a week, so it is nice and comforting to be around coworkers that are just friendly and will help you out if you need help or something, so that's also important. And just that I agree with the company mission as well. That's important. So yeah, those are definitely a few important things to me.
Beautiful. Hailee, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and chat with you a little bit more if that sounds good.
Mhm.